So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be continuing the theme of going through some GCSE Maths higher exam questions, focusing on some big mark questions. Now in terms of the questions on this video, I would class them as being level 8 questions, and it's really important that you do understand the topics before attempting these questions. Now again, a little reminder, if you're wanting access to the questions, which I strongly recommend you have attempt at, all you need to do is just simply click on the link in the description. Now, before we get started working through these questions, a little reminder that these are quite challenging problem solving questions. So it's really important that you do know each of these topics quite fluently before tackling these big mark questions. Now, if you're struggling with any of the topics that you can see on the screen, which is basically a topic breakdown of each of the questions, and I strongly recommend you have a look at the lessons, which you can find on the contents page of 162 Maths, which I'll include a link in the description below. Now, before we get started, just a little reminder that a copy of the questions and the official mark scheme is available for you to download by clicking on the link in the description below. And I strongly recommend you have an attempt at these questions before watching through this video, as you can see how you would have performed on each of these questions before we go through the answers. So looking at question 1, it says outside a cafe there is a large plastic ice cream cornet. The cornet is a hemisphere on top of a cone. The cone and the hemisphere have a radius of 24 centimeters, and the cone has a perpendicular height of 117 centimeters. Now, as typically when any volume of a complex 3D shape, the formulas will be given to you apart from a cylinder. So they've given the formulas, and again it's just worth checking to make sure that the units are the same for both in all measurements before we get started. Now the question 8 asks us to find the total volume of the cornet. So for this, what you can do is label. I would strongly recommend that you label each part A and B. Now it doesn't really matter which one you do, but I certainly would do this separately with any compound shape. So let's go for the hemisphere being A and the cone being B. So for this, let's have a look at what this is. So looking at A, so if I just write volume of A, which is a hemisphere. Now, in terms of the formula that we're going to use, it gives us the volume of a hemisphere. So we don't need to do any manipulation of the formula. So for example, they could have easily given us the volume of a sphere, in which then all I need to do is work out the volume of a sphere and then divide by 2. So for here, all we're doing is just simply substituting R, which is 24 centimeters, into this formula. So I'm going to have 2/3 multiplied by pi multiplied by 24 cubes. Now because we've got 24 cubed, I would probably assume that this is going to be a calculator question. So all I then need to do is type this all into my calculator correctly, in which I should have an answer of 9216 pi. Now as a decimal, again, we just need to, you can press the SD button on your calculator, or if your calculator can't handle pi, it might give it as a decimal. So let's just quickly type that into my calculator. I personally would prefer to leave your answer in terms of pi, simply because this is not the final answer. So if you've done this correctly, you should have an answer of 28,952.9179. Now the next thing for us then to do is then work out the volume of B, which is our cone. So the volume of B, which is the cone. And again, all I need to do is substitute R equals 24 and H, which is 117, into this formula here. So it's going to be 1/3 multiplied by pi times 24 squared multiplied by 117. And if I type that all into my calculator, I should get 22,464 pi, which as a decimal gives me an answer of 70,572.73737. So all that's left for me to then do is basically add those two numbers up. Now again, leaving it in terms of pi just makes it a little easier to type into my calculator. So I've got 912 pi plus 22464 pi into my calculator, in which I get an answer of 31,680 pi, or as a decimal 99525.655. And again, it's entirely up to you how you want to write your answer. It's, again, there's no insisting on rounding at all, so any of those two would be fine. But remember, if you have rounded your answer, it's always good practice to state what you've rounded it to, so whether it to be 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places. Moving on to B, it says the actual cornets that the cafe sells are similar to the plastic one. For the actual cornets, the cone and the hemisphere have a radius of 2 centimeters. How many times greater is the volume of the plastic cornet to the actual cornet? Now for this, because it mentions the word similar, we need to use our knowledge of volumes of similar shapes. So typically I would say the quickest way of doing this is to then say that the length scale factor is going to be 2. And no, it's going to be 24 over 2, because it's the plastic one over the original, which then gives us a scale factor of 12. So therefore the area scale factor is going to be 12 squared, which is 144, which therefore means that the volume scale factor is going to be 12 cubed, which gives us an answer of 1728, and that there is going to be our final answer. Alternately, you could in theory work out the volume of the actual cornet and then divide the answer that we got in A by the answer in of the actual cornet, and you should have the same answer of 1728. But again, because of the size of the numbers that we're using, it's going to be very messy, particularly with decimal numbers, so I personally would opt for this method. Moving on to question 2, it says that a company makes and sells boxes of washing powder. The company wants to increase the amount of money it receives per kilogram of powder. To get the required increase, it can either increase the price to £5.88 or reduce the mass of the powder in the box by X%. And the question is asking us to work out the value of X to 2 decimal places. Now to work out this particular question, what I need to do first is I need to work out the price per kg. Now in order to do that, what I need to do is do the price divided by the weight. So looking at the original kg price per kg, well that's going to be 5.6, because it's £5.60, divided by the original weight, which is £1.68. And that comes up to an answer of 3.3 recurring. Next, what I then need to do is work out the new price per kg. And that's going to be 588 divided by, then the weight's going to stay the same, so that's going to be divided by 1.68, which gives me 3.5. Now for this, what I then need to do is to look at the new, or the reduce in terms of this. What I then need to do is do the weight, which is going to be 5.6, because that's going to stay the same. I don't know what the new price is going to be, so I'm going to just call that Y. I'm not going to call it X because X is a percentage. And I know that that needs to be the same as 3.5. So then, all I then need to do is do 5.6 divided by 3.5 to equal Y. And so Y is going to equal 1.6 kg. So that's the weight of the new box if they're going to tinker with the same price but have a different weight. Now the question is asking for the percentage change. So the percentage change formula is the difference divided by the original multiplied by 100. So using this formula, all I then need to do is the original weight, which is 1.68, minus the new weight, which is 1.6, divide that by 1.68 and multiply that by 100, and that is going to tell me what the percentage change is going to be, which is what X is. So typing that all into my calculator, I get an X value of 4.761904, and so just rounding that up to 2 decimal places gives me an answer of 4.76, and there we go. Moving on to question 3, let's just zoom in a little bit. It says that a straight line is perpendicular to the straight line of 2, 8 and 6, 15 and passes through the point of 0, 9 and x, 17. And the question is asking us to find the value of x. Now there's going to be multiple steps in order to work this out. So the first thing I need to do is to find the gradient between these 2 points. So find the gradient between 2, 8 and 6, 15. Now to find the gradient between 2 points, it's the difference in y over the difference in x, or you can use the formula of y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It's entirely up to you which method you've used. So working this out, I'm going to get 15 minus 8 over 6 minus 2, which gives me an answer of 7 over 4. Now the next thing for me to do is then find the perpendicular gradient of those 2 points. So that's going to be minus 1 over 7 over 4. And again, to find the reciprocal of a fraction, we just flip the fraction and change the sign. So it's going to be minus 4 over 7. Now the next thing for me then to do is to find the equation of that line. So find the equation of the line. Now we know that it's perpendicular, so that's going to be the gradient. So this is m. And the coordinate I'm going to use is the coordinate that I've been given, which is 0, 9. So using this as x1 and y1. Now again, you can either use y equals mx plus c, or you can use the formula of y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And again, it's entirely up to you which one you want to go for. But ultimately, you should have the same equation of a line. I always opt for this one. So here we're going to have y minus 9 equals minus 4 over 7 x minus 0, which ultimately will give me an equation of a line of y equals minus 4 over 7x plus 9. Now that is the equation of a line. I then need to find out what x is. So for this, using y equals minus 4 over 7x plus 9 and a y value of 17, we can then find x. So substitute the numbers in, I'm going to end up with 17 equals minus 4 over 7 x plus 9. Take away the 9, end up with 8 minus equals minus 4 over 7x. And then you just need to flip, take the 7 over. So end up with 56 equals minus 4x. Divide by 4, giving me an answer of minus 14. Moving on to question 4, it's telling us that f of x equals 2x plus 5, and the question is asking us to show that 3f of x minus 12 lots of the inverse function of x simplifies to give us an integer. So for this, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the inverse function of x. Now again, to do this, what you do is you make the equation equal to y, and then we just want to rearrange this to make x the subject. So I've got y minus 5 equals 2x, and then y minus 5 divided by 2 equals x. So therefore the inverse function of x is going to be x minus 5 divided by 2. Now with this and the original function, I can then substitute that into this. So here I'm going to end up with 3 lots of f of x, that's 3 lots of 2x plus 5, minus 12 lots of x minus 5 over 2. So simplifying this, I get 6x plus 15 minus, well, 12 divided by 2 is 6. So then 6 lots of x minus 5 is going to be minus 6x, and then minus 6 minus 5, or multiplied by minus 5, gives me plus 30. And then from this, we can see that the 6x's cancel, leaving me with just 45, which is our integer. Moving on to question 5, it says that 2 objects J and K are applying pressure on to areas of ground, and it's given us the formula that pressure equals force over area. For J, the force is 18.9 newtons and the area is 0.4 square meters. And the question is saying that the pressure of J to the pressure of K is in the ratio of 7 to 8, and the area of J to the area of K is 9 to 5. Work out the force of K. So to work out this particular question, the first thing I need to do is first of all work out the pressure of J. Now to do that, what I need to do is just simply use the formula. So it's going to be 18.9 divided by 0.45. which gives me an answer of 72. Now for this, we know then that if the pressure of J is 72, that's 7 parts equals 42. So then I'm working with this bit here, and knowing that j is 7, and we know that that's 72. So that means that one part is going to be 72 divided by 7, which gives me 6. And so therefore 8 parts is going to be 6 times 8, which is 48. And this 48 is the pressure of K. Now from this, what I can then do is use this pressure of K to therefore then work out what the area of J is going to be. So here then the area of J is going to be 0.45, which is what it tells us there, and we need to, and that equals 9 parts. So therefore 1 part is going to equal 0.25. Actually no, it's not going to be equal 0.05. I was skipping ahead in terms of the final bit there. And so therefore 5 parts is going to equal 0.25 meter squared. So now that I know the pressure of K, I know the area of K, all that's left for me to then do is work out what the force of K is going to be. So the force of K is going to be the, if I rearrange the formula, is going to be pressure of K multiplied by the area of K, and so that then is going to be 48 multiplied by 0.25, which is going to give me an answer of 12. And then don't forget the units, which is newtons, which I do believe is written at the bottom there, so we don't need to worry about that, but that gives us an answer of 12. Then moving on to our last question, which looks at geometric proof. It says AB, BC and CD are sides of a regular 12-sided polygon. CD and MN is a square. Prove that the points A, B and N lie on a straight line. Now for this, when it comes to geometric proof, I would always start by saying how you're going to prove whatever they're wanting you to prove. So here I'm going to say that if A, B and N are on a straight line, then A, B, and still the angle ABC, which is this angle here. So if I just draw that line, plus, just make sure that doesn't look like an equals, which it does, plus CBN, which is CBN, this angle here, is going to equal 180 degrees. So if this is a straight line, then this angle here must add up to 180. So that's a proof that I do. So now all I need to now do is work out what angle ABC is and work out what CBN is. So here, looking at ABC, that if I just get rid of some of these notations here, we can see that it's a 12-sided polygon. So what I need to then do is work out the interior angle of a 12-sided shape. Now in terms of interior angles, it's 180 minus the number of sides, which is 12, take away 2, and then we divide that by the total number of sides, which is 12. So that comes up to a total of 150 degrees. So then if I know that this angle here is 150, all that's left for me to then do is work out what this angle here is going to be. Now looking at the, so let's just write CBN. So if BCD is equal to 150, because that's this angle here, so that's also going to be 150, and DCN, which is inside a square, which is information that's been given, is 90 degrees, then this angle here, just running out of colours, so this angle here, so if that's 90, I can then work out what that angle there is, which is going to be 360 minus 150 minus 90, is going to equal 120 degrees. Now we know that the triangle is going to be a isosceles triangle. How do I know that? Because those sides are going to be equal. So triangle BCN is isosceles. So therefore then, to work out CBN, it's going to be is equal to CNB. So that's going to be 180 minus the main angle divided by 2, which equals 30 degrees. So this is my angle of CBN. And this is the angle of ABC. So all that's left for me to do is then add those total angles up. So as ABC, which is 150 degrees, plus CBN, which is 30 degrees, equals 180, then A, B, and N lie on a straight line. And there we go.